Well, hi there. I hope y'all enjoyed last night's story of A Christmas Carol, Act 1. Tonight, we are gonna be reading Act 2. But before we get started, let me wish y'all a happy Christmas, a merry holiday, and to keep your loved ones close and warm.
In our magical snowy workshop, each Faco Cola bottle is filled with cheer, charm, and a confidential list of unpronounceable ingredients even we don't discuss at parties. So don't fret. Smooth your brain right out and sip your cares into the cold. Holidays go faster when you don't ask how, you know. Buy a Faco Cola today.
Now, without further ado, let's begin our tale. Act 2. The Ghost of Christmas Past. Ebenezer sat in the silence left behind by Marley's unraveling spirit, his breath trembling like a moth against a lantern. The house felt swollen with ghosts. Not Marley's alone, but all the forgotten versions of himself congregating in the corners. He whispered, "Ain't no sleep a comin' tonight," as though sleep wasn't already gone from him like a fleeing sinner. The candle on the table sputtered low, the shadows stretched, and from the deepest corner of the room, the one he never looked at because it reminded him of his childhood closet, where fears had grown fat, came a cold so sudden, so exact it felt like a doctor placing metal to skin. A figure emerged, not marching, not gliding, reconstructing itself piece by piece, like a memory deciding what to take shape. A woman's silhouette first, but that shape immediately refracted, folding into something androgynous, then childlike, then ancient, as if the ghost could not tolerate being one thing when memory is never one thing. Its face held no stable features. It shimmered with the flicker of 1,000 unspoken truths. "Are you?" Ebenezer started. The figure interrupted with a movement, not a word. A single finger raised, but tenderly, the way an exhausted mother or a wise teacher hushes a child on the brink of crying. It did not speak, but Ebenezer heard its voice anyway, inside him, inside every cavern of his psyche he had ever bricked over. "Come, see what you made of what made you." A wind rose that had never belonged to the room, and the walls dissolved into light, the pale yellow color of old parchment and regret. They stood in the yard of Ebenezer's old boarding school. The building bent slightly like a tired preacher. Snow lay thin across the ground, more frost than flake, the kind that cuts rather than comforts. Ebenezer swallowed. That place, Lord, I ain't thought about this in years. He saw the children inside, not spectral, but alive in their old-time motion, laughing with that throat-deep, full-bellied joy children own before the world taxes it out of them. A teacher dismissed the students for the holiday. They swarmed the doorway like birds freed from a cruel aviary. But one boy remained, small, thin, his clothes second-hand and stiff. Ebenezer felt a twinge. "That ain't..." The ghost inclined its head. It was indeed him. Young Ebenezer sat at a desk with a book he wasn't truly reading. His jaw was set in the stubbornness of one who already learned love was conditional, and therefore not to be trusted. He waited for a carriage that would never come, his father having deemed the cost of holiday travel an unnecessary extravagance. "It wasn't cruelty," Ebenezer whispered, defending the man who never defended him. "It was practicality. But the ghost's shifting face took on an expression both sorrowful and knowing. Practicality and cruelty often share a bed. The boy Ebenezer closed his book. He stared out at the forgotten window at the families leaving together. He mouthed something, a line Ebenezer had forgotten, or at least pretended to. The ghost amplified it until the words rang through the air like distant church bells. If they don't want me, I won't need no one. Ebenezer staggered back as though struck. That ain't how it happened, he insisted. But the ghost showed him the truth again, from another angle. Merciless. Childhood trauma as the first shadow cast. The scene shifted. He now stood in his childhood home, smaller than memory had painted it, cramped with stale air and the lingering scent of domestic resignation. Down the stairs bounded Fan, his younger sister, small and bright as a match struck in the dark. She was the only person who ever loved young Ebenezer without bargaining for it. She threw his arms around him. "You can come home now, Ebby. Father says so." The ghost did not need to guide Ebenezer toward understanding. He knew. She died young, giving birth to Fred, her life spent like a coin in another man's pocket. Fan's death had lit a fire of bitterness in Ebenezer's chest so hot it stayed burning for decades. He blamed the world for taking from him the one pure thing he ever had. And then he shaped his life into a fortress around that. Ebenezer whispered, "I should have protected her." The ghost's hands rested near his shoulder, not touching, but close enough that he felt the cold. "You cannot protect what you refuse to see." The house dissolved again like sand falling from clenched fists. They were now in a dim parlor. Belle stood by the window, the woman who had once offered Ebenezer her heart, her partnership, her stubborn charm. Her presence was tender strength, the kind of woman whose feminism was not a banner, but a natural law. She demanded equality because she could not conceive of herself as anything less. She faced younger Ebenezer, who was handsome in that striving, wound-tight way ambition sometimes makes a man. "Another year gone, Ebby," she said, voice worn thin. "Another year where profit mattered more to you than people." He did not answer. He counted his coins instead. Not literally, but spiritually. Belle sighed, the sigh of a woman who had seen the shape of her own erasure and refuses to step into it. "You've replaced me," she said softly, "with a world that will never love you back." Ghost Ebenezer did not hear her. Present Ebenezer did, and the shame hit him with the force of a collapsing star dying in the sky.
Ladies and gentlemen, we break in with an urgent update. Though the event occurred 1 week ago on the evening of December 8, 1980, the world is still reeling from shock at the murder of famed musician John Lennon outside his New York apartment building. Eyewitnesses describe the attack as sudden and senseless. The assailants stepping from the shadows as Lennon returned home with his wife, firing multiple shots at close range. Police apprehended the suspect almost immediately, but the motive remains clouded by contradictory statements and unsettling ramblings. Fans have flooded the outside of the Dakota building for 7 consecutive nights, singing, weeping, and lighting candles in mourning. Radio stations across the country continue to play Lennon's songs in continuous rotation as millions grapple with the loss. Yes, I'm hearing that authorities confirm that the investigation is still ongoing with psychological evaluations for the shooter. Meanwhile, leaders in the music world and beyond condemn the killing as a cruel and senseless blow to the generation's voice for peace.
The ghost now showed the next scene. Belle, years later, married to a kind man, Surrounded by children, her life filled with community and purpose. She found happiness, Ebenezer murmured, tears stinging. Without me. The ghost's face flickered in almost maternal pity. Suddenly the world darkened. Not night, but a deepening, like sinking through water. They were in a vast room of impossible geometry, all slanted corners and looming arches, a place outside of linear time, stitched together by memory's logic. Collective unconscious rising like a swamp ghost. Dominating the center was a massive clock, but its hands moved backwards. Engravings in its frame read, patriarchy, tradition, duty, legacy. Ebenezer stared in horror. These were the things I built my life on. The ghost nodded once. Then the clock chimed. And the sound was the cry of a child, a woman's gasp, a door slamming, a future closing. Ebenezer covered his ears. Stop it! Stop showing me all the ways I done hurt, or failed, or... The ghost leaned forward, the androgynous face settling into something unmistakable. His mother. In her words, the only ones he could barely remember, she whispered, remembering ain't punishment, Abby. It's the first mercy. The clock shattered. Its light spilled out. Ebenezer fell back into it, tumbling, spinning, falling, until he landed back in his room, gasping, face wet with tears he had not allowed himself in decades. The ghost of Christmas past stood at the foot of his bed, foam flickering. Its final gaze was both stern and full of unbearable compassion. What you are, Ebenezer, was shaped by what you survived. What you become shall be shaped by what you choose. And then with that, the ghost dissolved into a glow like dawn trapped under the ice. Now, that was Act 2, and I know we got a little bit scary there, but sometimes holidays need a little darkness to remind you of the joy you truly feeling. I hope you all have a warm night, and much love. Adieu.